Friday, a teen. I said, how's your day? She's like, it's been a day, Pastor Jared. I said, that means bad, doesn't it? Yeah, that means bad. We all have those bad days. So I started praying about this lesson. I knew I was going to speak for quite a while, and I started praying and praying and praying. And you know, one of the hardest things I struggle with is brokenness. We have all felt that, right? Brokenness. We've all felt alone. We've all felt weary and burdened by this life. And this life was not supposed to be like this, just like, you know. It was wonderful, and then we wanted to get muddy, and Eve jumped in the mud. But the wonderful thing is that Jesus came and said, if you come to me, I'll make you clean. And we can go to him dirty, and guess what? All we have to do is say, Jesus, I'm dirty. And he's like, don't worry. I'll make you clean. So when I prayed about this, Jesus put this lesson on my heart. It's called The Healer of Brokenness, because I think this world is broken. I think this world is shattered. We have things happening now where we question who goes in what bathroom. Do you know what's wrong with that? Because they're making kids seem like an accident. That's why kids have identity issues today. That's why people have identity issues, because they say there is no God and that you're an accident. Well, I'll tell you what, you're not an accident. You're not. Jesus wrote you on his palm of his hand, the Bible says in Psalms, and you're his precious little one, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and guess what? You have purpose for your life. So if he made you a boy, you're a boy. And if he made you a girl, you're a girl. And he made you perfect in that way. And don't let anyone tell you any different, because your Heavenly Father has the greatest and highest standard that will never change. This world is broken. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm more of a parable pastor. Does anyone know what that means? A parable pastor. There was a person in the Bible that was a parable pastor too. His name was Jesus. I had one person say, Jared, you tell too many stories. Well, Jesus told the most stories in biblical history, so if you want to get mad at me, get mad at him. So I like to tell stories because that's how I understand the lessons, and I feel it relates to you better. So I'm going to tell you a story, and then we're going to get started. Hannah and I went to visit one of her friends that had passed away in a tragic car accident. Her name was, well, I won't tell you her name. She was only 21 years old. She was living down south, and she had been working 50 hours a week, just doing like every 21-year-old is trying to do, just live life, trying to the best they can, right? Trying to get stuff on track and trying to do what they can. And she needed some groceries. And it was during the whole hurricane thing that was happening down south. She was in Alabama. So she went out, just as we all do, go get groceries, right? We need milk, go get milk. At Meijer, Costco, whatever. We just need to go get milk. She was going to get groceries for the week because she's been working so hard. And so she goes and her car hydroplanes and runs into a tree, kills her. 21 years old, life is gone. So when we were driving there, I didn't know any of the family. I had no idea who they were. Hannah did, but I didn't know who they were. So when we were driving there, Hannah asks me a lot of times very cool questions that a lot of times I don't have the answers to. So I always say the answer is Jesus, to make it easy. She says, Jared, what do we do in this situation? And I said, we be like Jesus as best as we can be. And it's like, Jared, what does that look like? How do we be like Jesus? And the only thing I can tell you is when I played Jesus in the play, that started to rub off on everybody, because I noticed myself acting like Jesus all the time, and that's wonderful. But I said, we have to be like Jesus right now. If they're broken, we have to be broken. If they're crying, we have to cry. We have to be there for them. So we walked in, and I already know, people kind of knock me on this, and that's okay, but I don't look like a pastor. I don't dress like one, because I don't want to be what the pastor ideal is today in this country. It's turned into something it never was supposed to be. You have pastors now doing this whole thing called prosperity. The best thing for your life now. Well, I don't want my best thing now. I want my best thing with Christ. And if that has me looking like you, I don't want to look like you. I want to look like Jesus did. So I went to the viewing in jeans and a plaid shirt, and some people say, well, how come you didn't wear a suit, Pastor? Because I want to go as a friend, not a pastor. Because Jesus came to us as a friend, and the Pharisees didn't like that. Pharisees wanted this high and mighty person that they read about in Daniel, where he's supposed to come on a cloud, and that's why they didn't accept Jesus. But Jesus came and he says, listen, I'm a servant, I'm coming to you as a friend. Because that's how you can truly win people, right? As a friend. Be a friend to people. So I told Hannah, we're going to go in there and be a friend to everybody. So I went in there and we walked up, and I have a routine every time I do a funeral, anytime I go to a funeral. I don't know who the person is, but I still go up to the casket and I pay my respects to the person. Because that's not them anymore. That is just this body that failed. And that person is now in eternity. And she was a Christian, right? Yeah. So she's with Jesus, which is wonderful, wonderful. But you have to understand, I started to look at her and then my heart just sank. I have something that I hated ever since when I was younger, and there's days that I hate it today. But I feel what people feel. Sometimes I hate that. Because when someone comes up to me and they're broken, I feel the brokenness. And my heart shatters for them. I feel what people feel, and when I saw this poor little girl, she's 21, in this casket, this box is supposed to go into the ground. Do you know why our minds can't comprehend death? Is because we never were supposed to die. Ecclesiastes talks about how we have an eternal soul and how our minds have an eternal thought. We understand that we're supposed to live forever, and death, we can't comprehend it. We can't get it. That's why it's broken. So we went over, and they have now, technology has it where we can watch the videos of the person and all their photos and everything on the screens. And so we started watching, and I just started crying. I have no idea who this person is, but the brokenness in my heart for their family. She's 21 years old, and they're showing baby pictures of her. They're showing little girl pictures of her. This is someone's little girl. This is a dad's little girl. And they're broken. The tragedy of life, right? So we went over and we were just saying hi to people periodically, and we finally saw the dad. And so we went up to the dad, and I just went over to him, and he's in a wheelchair, and I went over to him, I grabbed his hand, and I put my arms around him, I said, I love you. I said, I love you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry this had to happen. I'm so sorry for your brokenness. And people deal with death differently, don't they? They deal with death differently. Her dad was someone who spoke about his true feelings, and he looked at me and he said, Jared, my heart is torn in half. Now, saying that is one thing, but trying to understand what he's feeling is another. Christians, we need to be more empathetic with people. So I told him before I left, I said, hey, can I pray with you? He says, yeah. So I prayed with him. My heart was shattered for them. And I was trying to be like Jesus as much as I could. Then we went and saw her mom, and her mom was just dealing with it the complete opposite. Let's not talk about it. Let's just cry for a little bit and we'll be okay. And that's how the mom was dealing with it. Went up to the mom and gave her a hug, and we laughed. It's broken. And do you know what the hard part is? The hard part is not the viewing or the funeral. Anyone know what the hard part is? After. When the dust settles, and everyone stops giving you food, and everyone stops giving you cards, and the phone calls stop. And when you're alone, that's when the brokenness shatters again. It becomes real all over again. When the emptiness of the person that is gone, man, can't comprehend that. This world is broken. Then my dad just told me yesterday, and he was almost crying, telling me, he says, Jared, pray for my friend. She lost her 28-year-old son. He's like, Jared, he's your age. And he's like, that shattered me, Jared. And I looked at him, and he looked like a wonderful boy. He's my type of guy. He had big curly hair and a big beard. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And he passed away. We go through brokenness in our life, regardless of what it is, so we need a healer of that. We need someone to take that away. And that's why this lesson was made, is because I want to help you through your brokenness. This week at work, my life was broken. I didn't want to go. That's a whole other story, but I wanted to seek out the healer of brokenness. So the first part, I want you to come to Jesus. Don't think of Jesus as this distant person in a faraway galaxy. He loves you. And he came not to push you away, but to bring you close. People make Jesus out to be someone he's not. I'm trying to be like him in every way I can. And I fail every day, as we all do. But we need to go to him. It seems like the one thing we don't want to do is the one thing we should be doing when we're broken in our hearts, with whatever we're dealing with in life. We need to go right to him. Jesus is close to the broken. Psalm 34:18 and Psalm 147:3, it says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Guess what? He's that dad when you trip and fall and you scrape your knee and he comes over and he wipes away your tears with his finger and he says, "It's okay. I have the Neosporin and I have a Band-Aid and it's going to be okay." That's him. Jesus feels brokenness. Isaiah 57:15. "For this is what the high and exalted one says, He who lives forever, whose name is holy." This is Jesus. He says, "I live in the high and holy place, but also with the one who is contrite and lowly in spirit, to revive the spirit of the lowly and to revive the heart of the contrite." Now, what is contrite? Contrite is feeling or expressing remorse affected by guilt. Jesus is brokenhearted by this world and what it's done to you. Is brokenhearted. If you read Genesis and the brokenhearted that Jesus feels when his kids choose something else over him, it shatters him. And he hates evil. He hates death. This was never supposed to be us. He has to watch his kids die every day. Every single day. Do you know what's the worst part, if I could say, about being God in his perspective? I think would be knowing. Knowing that you're creating someone that will never choose you. But you still create them because you love them and you give them the free will to have the opportunity to choose him. What an awful thought. The one you love most doesn't want you, but he still chooses to love you. Jesus will give you rest. Matthew 11:28-29. "All of you who are weary and burdened, come to me and I will give you rest." Can I rephrase this a little bit? I did this in the play to help you guys understand. All of you who are broken and alone and just in darkness, come to me. And I bet you he says it with a smile on his face. Come to me, all of you who are broken and alone, and I will give you the rest that you need from this broken world. Take my yoke upon you. Let me carry it. Learn from me, for I am gentle and I'm humble at heart. And you will find the rest for your souls. That's Jesus. Now, here's the question I want to look at, though. How would Jesus truly know about brokenness being God? He knows all. So how would he truly know brokenness? To understand and help, one must have gone through brokenness, right? Because if you truly want to help someone, you probably have gone through it previously. Okay? Anyone who has, I understand people that have lost dogs. If you guys are dog people, you know, when I've had people come to me and they're crying at work and I'm like, "What's wrong?" And they're like, "I had to put my dog down." My heart breaks for them because I know what that feels like. And they're just like, "Jared, a lot of people don't understand." I said, "I do. I get you. They're your kids. Those puppies are your kids. Just like our cats are our kids." And even like Julie and Toby came over yesterday and they're just like, "Echo, Mia, and Allie all have their own attitude." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Echo is more like the domineering, Mia's the sweetheart, and Allie's the introvert." They're characteristics, and they're my little ones. That's who they are. So how did Jesus experience brokenness? So the real question is what I'm asking. How does the God of the universe experience brokenness? You can't sometimes comprehend that. How does the one who knows all, who created everything, experience heartache and brokenness? So what we're going to do for Jesus to help us in this situation of brokenness, we're going to see where he has been broken. Interesting. We're going to see where Jesus hurt and where Jesus was upset, and where Jesus was, while he was on this planet, he was crying and upset and alone. And we're going to look at those things because that's the only way he can help us, right? You can only truly be helped if someone comes up to you and says, I've been through exactly what you're going through, and I know what you're feeling right now. That can truly help and change people. So the first point is, Jesus' biological cousin was murdered. This is John the Baptist, Matthew 14:13. It says, when Jesus heard what had happened with John the Baptist had his head cut off because he was telling a king, stop sleeping with your sister-in-law. Stop it. The king locked him up. Then the king found his niece attractive and said, I'll give you whatever you want. She says, Mom, he said he'll give me whatever I want. The wife didn't like what John the Baptist was saying. Don't do what she's doing. So she says, get rid of John the Baptist. Bring me his head. The king had John the Baptist murdered. Jesus found out about it. So let's see what Jesus' reaction was. When he heard about John the Baptist, this is what he did. He withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Why? He was broken. You're like, God? God was broken? What do you think that means? This week I was so upset because of certain situations, and do you know what I did? Went by myself in a solitary place. I shut the door, turned the Christian music on, because I wanted to seek the one who is helping me through my brokenness. And Jesus speaks to me through music. I can't tell you how many stories Jesus has spoke to me through music. But here Jesus went, and he went to a boat, and he took it and went to somewhere privately. I need to be alone. My cousin was just murdered for doing what he was supposed to do. I'm broken. Number 2, Jesus was alone many times. Luke 5:16, but often Jesus withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Matthew 14:23, after he had dismissed them, talking about when he fed the 5,000, went up to a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone. I just wonder what was going through his mind. Don't you? Why did you go off alone? There's many times you read where he looks at people and he's just so broken because they don't want him. They don't understand who he is, and they're calling him someone he's not. And he's doing these miraculous things only God could do, and they still don't understand. They still don't get it. But who did he seek? The Father. Do you know what Jesus did all the time is please the Father? So he's showing us an example. When you're broken and alone, seek the Father. Seek the Father. Number 3, his precious ones are helpless. That's us. That's us. His precious ones. Matthew 9:36. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. They were being hurt. They were wandering around, not knowing what to do, where to go, what path to take from here. I'm alone. And Jesus was broken for them. His precious ones are distressed. Isaiah 63 verse 9. In all their distress, he too was distressed. Wow. Wow. In your brokenness, Jesus feels that. So can I be real with you? Jesus feels what you feel. When you're crying and alone in your room and no one knows you're crying and alone, Jesus is there with you crying and alone with you. He's holding you and he's just, I'm here. There are days, I'll give you an example. There was one day I was driving to work and I was having so much anxiety with so much stuff happening, with so many cars breaking down, and wondering if we're going to be able to pay for any of this other stuff that we had to get, a new car and all this other stuff. And I was driving to work and I just automatically, God says to hide the word in your heart. Right? Hide his words. Why? Because they come for you, because they're his words. So there's this passage that Jesus says in Matthew chapter 6. It talks about worry. And we talked about it in the production this year, but I looked in the rearview mirror and I just pictured Jesus saying it to me, and I want you to do this as well when you feel broken. Where Jesus, and I put my name in it. And I said, Lord, I need your help. And I'm going to repeat your words. And I said this, and I started bawling my eyes out of my car, alone, 6 o'clock in the morning. Jared, don't worry about your life. What you will eat, what you will drink, what you will wear. Look at the birds. They don't toil or spin or store away in barns, but I take care of them. How much more valuable are you, Jared? My boy, can you add a single hour to your life by worrying about something? Jared, why do you come to me and you say, I'm worried about what I'm going to wear, how I'm going to pay this or pay that? Jared, look at the lilies of the field. And it's so funny, Hannah, I really wanted this. She planted lilies out there. So that was my reminder every morning. I didn't tell her that, but that's my reminder. Jared, look at the lilies outside of your house, how they're growing. If your Heavenly Father clothes the lilies of the field, which are here today and tomorrow, or when winter comes, are thrown away, how much more am I willing to take care of you, Jared? Oh, you of little faith. So do not worry. Saying, what will you eat, what will you drink, what you will wear? For the pagans think about these things, and your Heavenly Father knows that you need them, but seek Him first, Jared, and all His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. Jared, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble on its own. That's Jesus. Don't worry about tomorrow. How hard that is, though. I have anxiety. I suffer from anxiety, and I swear that's the thorn in my side that won't go away. God just says, Jared, don't worry about tomorrow. I have tomorrow right here. If I can hold the stars, and I can hold the world, I can hold your heart and its brokenness. So when we're distressed, He's distressed. Number 5, Jesus cries. And that makes me feel good, so good, because I'm a crier. Man, I'm very emotional, even with movies. Hannah looks at me, and we went and saw Spider-Man 2, and at the end, spoiler alert, but his girlfriend dies. I'm bawling in the theater. I'm just crying so hard. Hannah looks at me, what's wrong? It's so sad. No fun. Keep going. It's Spider-Man. And she's sitting there like, oh, wimp. No. But Jesus cries. He's very emotional, Jesus. He's very emotional about you. John 11:35, Jesus wept. He cried. And this is with dealing with, guess what? He had to watch his friend die. Why did he have to watch his friend die? Because he was going to use the miracle of raising his friend from the dead to show who he was. Jesus may allow certain things to happen to show who He is, but He's in the brokenness with you. And He's broken in 2 different ways in that story, because Martha and Mary come to Him and they are broken. He does absolutely cry, and I truly think this, because they're hurt. But I also think He cries because they don't get it. They don't get that He can just instantly... He didn't even have to be there. He didn't have to come. He just had to stay back and sit there and not even speak the words. He just had to think it. Lazarus, get out. But again, He cries. Isaiah 53:3. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering, a man familiar with pain, like one from whom people hide their faces. He was despised, and we held Him in lowest esteem. This is Jesus. So you think you feel pretty bad? This is God. Despised and rejected by men. This is talking about Jesus. People hid their faces from Him. They don't want to see or be around Him. He's a man of sorrows. Truly. Jesus was a man of sorrows. You hear throughout Scripture about Him crying. And there's a whole book out there called Jesus Wept. Talks about the times that Jesus cried. Our God is emotional about us. Matthew 21:38. Then they said to Him, then Jesus said to them, and this is when Jesus was about to go and pray to the Father in the garden. He says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Now, do you think He said that straight-faced? Or do you think he cried while he's saying it? Because listen to those words. My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. I'm crying my eyes out and I can't stop. Because what's about to happen, I can't handle. You know why? This human thing. He knew it was going to be painful. He knew he was going to be rejected by people who loved him. He was on the cross and he said, forgive them, Father, they don't know what they're doing. He's emotional about you. His precious ones don't want him. Matthew 23, 37 through 38. And this is probably the most emotional passage in Scripture. And this as soon as he got done being stern with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He was very stern with them. And he looked over at them and he said, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who killed the prophet. It's Jesus calling, brother. Don't worry, he'll call back. Do you know, anytime, and it's awesome, anytime that happens, I've had that happen so many times when I'm preaching, I always think about Jesus. They didn't have cell phones, but how many times do you think people in the crowd were like, yeah, we're over here, Mom, at the hill. Jesus is speaking. Come on. And the disciples are probably like, zip it, kid. Zip it. And Jesus is like, it's fine. Come on. Who's coming? Tell them to come on. That's like Jesus. I always think of Jesus in that situation. It's awesome. That's why I always love babies in when I preach. They're awesome. I love babies, you know? So it's just like, they want to cry, go ahead. You know? Little Josiah loves my preaching. He looks at me, and now he's out. Yeah, I sing him to sleep. But Jesus comes up and he says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who killed the prophets and stoned those who were sent to you, how I've longed. Listen to that word, longed. I've thought about this for eternity. I've thought about you for eternity, and all I want is for you to come close to me. I've thought of nothing else. There's nothing that I'm here for except for you. I've longed for you to come to me like a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you didn't want me. You wanted nothing to do with me. You wanted the muddiness of this world, just as Eve and Adam did. He says, look, your house has left you desolate, talking about their heart. Look inside in your heart. It's empty. And it will continue to be empty and broken if you don't let me put it back together. Let me seal your heart. Let me get it back to new. You're broken inside. And he says, you will not see me again. Later he says this. He said, you will not see me again until you hear, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. He's saying, I'm going away, and this is kind of like the last chance you're going to be able to see me and believe. Later you're going to have to take it up on faith. This is probably the hardest one. He's going to have to let his precious ones go. Not only do they not want him, but he's going to have to let them go one day. Matthew 25:41. This is when Jesus was talking about the sheep and the goats. And he's talking about the ones on his right are the righteous ones. And he talks about the ones on the right. He says, those of you who fed me when I'm hungry, came to visit me in prison when I was in prison, and clothed me when I needed clothes. And they're like, Lord, when did you need clothes? When were you in prison? When were you hungry? He says, when you did these to the least of these, you did them to me. But then he says something so horrifying and so broken. He looks to the ones on his left. And this is talking about the end of days, the judgment. And he says, you did not feed me when I was hungry. You did not clothe me when I was naked. When I was in prison, you didn't come to visit me. Lord, when were you naked? When were you in prison? When were you hungry? You didn't do these to anybody. You didn't do them to me. When you don't love, you don't know me. So he says this. He said, he'll look to the ones on his left. Depart from me. It's broken. I look at people today. Sometimes when you go to a big crowd, you look around and you ask the question, how many people know Jesus? Because they're looking around, and I'm looking around, and I just want to, Yeah, I know. It's just like you look around and you're like, how many people? You almost want to scream it at the top of your lungs. How many people know Jesus? Then they throw you out over wherever you're at. That would be so worth it. But here he has to look to his ones that he created. The ones that he loves most. And he has to say, you can't have me and what you want. It doesn't work like that. You wanted something else. And I love you so much, I won't force you into heaven against your will. I'll let you choose that. Well, Lord, I want you to. It's me or nothing at all. And he says, you are cursed into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. Do you understand what that said? My little one, this was never meant for you. This hell was never meant for you. I didn't make it. It was never meant for you. It was for Satan and his followers. It was never meant for you. But you want to follow that. It's broken. In closing, I know, fast, right? It's like the quickest message I've ever done. Everyone's like, thank God. Keep preaching, preacher. Okay, I will. But in closing, I'm going to tell you one more story. Luke 7, 11 through 17. This is what I wanted to touch on, but I want to help you out to understand that Jesus is someone who feels what you feel and is emotional and who's experienced brokenness and still experiences brokenness to this day. Because he has to say those words every single time that someone chooses hell over him. Depart from me. You are cursed. Now you have to go to the place where there's eternal punishment that was never meant for you, but only the devil and his angels. He has to experience it every day. So this person who experiences brokenness wants to help you in your brokenness. And I'm going to tell you about a story about a woman who was broken. Now, this woman, and then we'll be done. This woman, do you ever try to read between the lines to understand Scripture a little bit more? The backstory about the person and maybe what they dealt with and what they experienced. I'm going to kind of set the table for you. Is that all right? I'm going to set the table for you, and then we'll get some supper on what the meat is of the Word, okay? So I want you to picture this. There was this one little girl. We're going to call her Rosie, because I like that name. We're going to call her Rosie for this message, okay? Rosie was a little girl, and you know what every little girl dreams of? Her wedding day. Not about the guy, she could care less, but how beautiful the wedding's going to be. Doesn't she? She's just like, I want this flower and that basket over there, and the ring there, come down there, and my ring to look like this, and my dress to look like that, and that's what little girls dream about. Little boys dream about being Superman or Batman, which is great. And I still do, every day. No. But this little girl, as she started to get older, she had one dream in mind, her wedding day. She was like, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. As we all have, right? And she gets to be a teenager, and she starts to find interest in this one guy. This guy, like all the girls, kind of like, ooh, look at him. Yeah, he's cute. She starts to find interest, but she starts to think, I want to find my true love, though. I don't want to date somebody. I want to find my true love, the one that God has for me. And she's a Christian, and I want to find the one that God has for me. Not the one I want, but the one that He has for me. And so she prays about it. She starts to pray about it, starts to seek God out through this. Lord, is this the right one? If it is, you bring him to me. You bring him to me. So she started to pray, and she was very introverted. She did her own thing, which is awesome, right? And for some weird reason this week, there's a girl at my school. She's super, super quiet, and I every single time, many people say she's really rude because she doesn't talk. And so I just try to be like Jesus to her every day. I'm like, how are you? She's like, good. This week, not to get on a rabbit for a second, this week I went up to her and I said, hey, how are you? She looked at me, she says, I'm good. And then she says, I'm sorry for always being quiet. I wanted to say, sweetheart, you're fine, don't worry. And I told her, I was like, don't worry. I said, my wife is very quiet too. I get it. I get it. I just thought that was cool. But this girl that we're telling a story about, she's very quiet, not really in the group, on her own. But then this boy comes and notices her, and he sees her, and he thinks she's gorgeous. Not because of her looks, but because he sees Jesus in her. He sees God. He gets the courage finally and says, will you go to homecoming with me? And she, of course, is like ecstatic, like, this is the guy, man. This is like, wow. And she's like, you know? And he's just as nervous, and he goes and he gets dressed, and they match, and they go to the homecoming, and it's awesome. And they have a great time. Well, they keep on dating all the way through college, and then he gets to the point where he's going to ask her to marry him, scared to death. They've been dating this whole time, and he gets to the point where he plans all this stuff and asks her to marry him, and this is her love, man. This is like her Prince Charming, and he's asking her to spend forever with him. She's like, forever's too short. I love you. And she's like, absolutely. So they get married, and of course, as every marriage starts, it's tough at first, you know, finances, learning each other, and everything like that. And so once they kind of get everything handled, they lived in this place called Nain, and it's actually in Luke. They lived in this place called Nain, and what happened is this. They choose to have a little one. Now here's the thing. There was complications. There's complications. Seems like God is not blessing them. She starts to worry. Is it me? Is it him? Starts to get stressed out and broken more. But then a miracle happens and they have a little one. Now she has two true loves. She was seeking her true love. That was her husband. Now she has two true loves. She has her son. And her son looks just like her husband. She's like, score! I get two true loves. This is awesome. Hannah's jealous if we have a daughter. She's going to be like, you love her more than me. But she had two true loves now. In Nain, what happened is they had a lot of farming going on, harvesting. And they didn't have the medicine we have today back then. Something happened. Her husband got sick. So they kept praying and praying and praying that God would heal him. This is her true love. This is everything to her. This person laying on his bed is everything to her. She keeps questioning herself. If he does pass, how am I going to take care of this? My son is old enough to where he can help me, but how am I going to do this? So she goes, and finally the day came. I don't know what's worse, the person passing or waiting for them to pass, right? So finally he passed. The one she loves. It's gone. I can't comprehend that. I can't comprehend not doing this. I can't comprehend that. I can't wrap my mind around it. Okay? So for someone to lose that person, I can't get it. I don't understand it. She lost that. But she had someone, her son. Her son looked just like her husband, so guess what? She was able to see her husband and her son. It's wonderful. Then something happened. Her son died. The only one that looked like the one she loved was gone. She was alone. How am I going to survive? How am I going to get past this? What am I going to do? Lord, why are you allowing this to happen? What is the purpose in my brokenness? I'm alone. So she got the funeral ready. And I think people can't comprehend those days. Putting together the clothes that they're going to wear as they bury them. I don't think they can get it. I can't comprehend it. Putting them together in that box. And they try to make death look fancy, don't they? They try to make death look fancy because we can't understand it. We can't understand death, so they try to make death look fancy so we're away from the hurt. She didn't have a lot of money. There was no fancy this, fancy that. She just had a lot of people who heard about her son. She had people there at the funeral, and they were carrying him out to the gate. Then something happened. You see, she was looking for her true love. She thought she found it with her husband. Nothing wrong with that. Her husband went away. Body gave up. She was looking for her true love, and she had her son. At least he looks like my husband, and he's my boy. She lost him. Now she was walking next to this carriage, carrying her son out to be put in the ground somewhere. Jesus doesn't let that go. In a distance, she's seen this man that didn't look like regular men. There's something in his eyes, something different, something eternal. And it was Jesus. He was walking to this place, Nain, at the right time. Just as the funeral was leaving the gate. And she's seen him. She thought she knew what love was. And then she's seen him. And she understood what love is and who it is. And I bet you, Jesus, remember, this is his little girl. He put her together perfectly in her mother's womb. Just imagine, can I say this like this? Please don't get upset with me when I say this, but imagine the fear in Jesus' heart that he's going to let his little girl go into this world. Do you feel that as parents? You're afraid you're letting your children go into this scary world and the brokenness that they're going to feel. And you honestly just want to stay here with me. Jesus feels that same thing. He let his little girl go into this broken world knowing the brokenness that she would be, but guess what? Dad would be there. It's kind of like, you're going to go through brokenness in life, but I'm going to come rescue you. So he goes up to her, and she's probably destroyed. Right? Just destroyed. Her whole life is gone. Doesn't know what she's going to do. And he just comes up to her, and I bet you he was crying. Why? We just learned about it. When you cry, Jesus cries. So I bet he went up to her, and this is what he says. Don't cry. I think there's more in those words than we understand. Don't cry. I think he's saying this. It's me, the love of your life. I'm so sorry this world has hurt you. Come to me. I raced here to get you. And if you read, he was 2 miles away at another place. So he walked 2 miles to get to his precious little girl because he knew she was going to be hurting that day. He walked all the way there. And I bet you he just sat on the ground in the mess, and the mud, and the dirt. And we always picture Jerusalem all bright and sunshiny and hot, right? I want to try to picture what it feels like to those who have lost somebody. Snowy, cloudy, and dark. So picture a snowy, cloudy, dark day, and you have to bury the love of your life. But then all of a sudden Jesus comes up and puts his arm around you and says, don't cry. I'm here. I'll make everything new again. I promise. You are my precious, precious little girl, and I love you with all of my heart. You're everything to me. You're the reason I'm going to die to save you. So I'm here. I know you're hurting.
I'm hurting too for you. And I bet you he holds her until she stops crying. Right? There's been times that Hannah has cried and I've just held her until she stopped. And sometimes I'll even pick her up and hold her like a little girl and I'll just stay there. She tries, but then she has back problems. But Jesus just probably stood there and held her as he will hold you in your brokenness. And he'll look at you and he'll whisper those words, don't cry. I'm here. I'm going to take this broken thing and I'm going to put it back together. Then he does something amazing. Remember I said that the bad things that happen in your life is a way to show Jesus more? She went up to her son who was laying in that box and grabbed his hand and said, my boy, it's time to get up. He got up. She was fine. She was able to work again. She was able to survive. In the brokenness that we can survive. As the musicians come, I want you guys to reflect on this as something very important. If I experience brokenness as a pastor, you experience brokenness, right? People look at pastors as something different than regular people. That's why I want to dress like regular people. Because I experience brokenness just like you do. I experience hurt just like you do. I go through pain every day in certain ways just like you do. I question things just like you do. You and I are very similar and very alike. There are people sometimes at my work that say, oh, Jared, you don't have to clean that up. And I tell them I'm here to serve. I look at myself as nothing as Jesus did. When you're going through your brokenness of whatever it may be, I want you to remember he can put it back together. You need to come to him. Why? Because he's experienced brokenness. And he says, if you come to me, I will give you peace. You know those nights you can't sleep? I'll rock you to sleep. You know those times where you feel like you can't breathe and the world is crashing down? I'll give you air and I'll hold the world up. Those times where you feel like you're alone, I'll keep you company. The times you need affection, I'll send someone to put their arm around you. And that's me. Go ahead and stand with your heads bowed and eyes closed.